Hi, clowns. Welcome back to Crimelia Street. I'm Sam.
And I'm Tori.
And my mind is alive. I'm Shoshana.
Nice.
Amazing.
And we are gathered here today for another episode of Crimelia Street, and we are in spooky season mode.
We're suited up.
Yep.
Got banana goggles here, Shoshana.
Classic. How are your eyeballs doing?
Yeah, no.
After
great.
the surgery.
Yeah, I was gonna say post eye surgery.
Don't cry.
Hopefully
Mine
that
is alive.
2020 vision is kicking in.
Sam tonight is she's got 20 stitches, some bruises, and she is out of the redwoods.
Yep. One of my favorite songs, Out of the Woods, and I am 20 stitches in a hospital room. And I actually have to give credit to the person. It was this person on TikTok, Tyler Conroy, who also taught us the Fate of Ophelia dance.
I love him.
Yeah, so shout out to him for the costume idea, because that's where I got it. So
We were laughing so hard at he's got this like funny like snort thing that he does when he's laughing, and Sam and I think we had a beer that night while we were doing them, and it just got like funnier and funnier every time he snorted.
Yes. It was great.
Yeah.
In all respect, a good snort. I mean, I feel like we are the snorting group. We're my only group of friends that
true.
snort. I don't know anyone else who does it.
Yes.
Oh, huh. Yep.
It's contagious. Or maybe it's
literally us and Dustin. I can't think of another person that snorts.
No, honestly, true.
it's an us thing.
It's literally us.
I think I always assumed everyone does it, but we're just all so close that we like show that side to each other.
Yeah.
We're not like ashamed of it, you know? Like,
Right.
Right.
We snort freely.
Yeah, we snort
Right. So what?
unapologetically.
I have
I
snorted in the
snort,
workplace.
so
And
Yeah.
right. What's wrong with that? It's a normal human function.
That's right.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. That is
I was like,
great.
it's unintentional. It's just-
Right. Right. It just we're laughing and we mean it. So sue me.
Yes. Hi, Kitty.
Hi, Kitty. Tori is standing in the room, and she is one of the anti-hero ghosts. Love that.
All the people you've ghosted are stand in the room.
Stay in the room. And actually, this would be a good outfit to take outside of the podcast, because then you don't have to really interact with anything. You can just have the shield. Like, I'm digging it.
No, that's actually a great idea, Tim.
No, I agree. If I had a shield for like, don't talk to me. I actually do have a shield. It's my headphones. I wear them everywhere.
I also the
But I'm
sunglasses.
sure people find a way.
They sure do. They sure do.
But yeah, but Tori can see, by the way, so she's not just blank space.
There are holes in the sheet. Yep, blank space.
That's good. That's
That
good.
is good.
Thanks,
Dang,
guys.
maybe that should have been my name. How's everyone's day been?
Honestly, crazy. Literally crazy. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, we're so
I'm
happy to have
trying to
you.
figure out what's going on with Robert.
Yep.
Yes.
Have you guys been able to refrain from research?
I forced myself to, honestly. Like, it helps that I have ADHD, but like every time it would like pop up, I'd be like,
No. Yes. Should we do a little recap of where we left off?
Yes, yeah. Okay, so in part 1, we went over the night of the murder, the events of the murder, the interrogations with the 3 roommates who lived in the house with Robert, who were all there on the night of the murder. Pretty much just the initial investigation. And then the place we like just left off at was where Joe had gone back to the police station after interrogations. And then the next day he was like, oh, so I said that I had just moved the knife off of Robert's chest, but actually I gave it out of his chest. And I had forgotten, and now I didn't forget. Now I remember. So
Weird.
odd for
Yeah,
sure.
I actually forgot that part. No, that was like, it literally takes so much effort to pull something out of someone.
Right.
Crazy.
And
That
also,
reminds
like,
me of the Ellen Greenberg case
it does.
too.
Like, oh, there's a knife in her chest. Like,
Like you didn't see that to begin with.
right. We're going to pick up from there, and we're going to dive into the autopsy results. Robert had burst blood vessels in his eyes, which is usually seen in cases where someone was strangled or suffocated. There were 3 stab wounds that were slit-like defects that appeared almost like surgical incisions. The wounds were nearly identical in orientation and size, which indicates that Robert did not move at all while being stabbed. From the very beginning to the end, not any movement at all. One of the wounds was even directly in his heart. And you guys can pull up photo 6A of the autopsy results. Okay, so you can see those like 3 slit-like marks in his chest there. Robert had no defensive wounds. The medical examiner says she would have expected evidence of Robert having put up a fight if someone were able to get close enough to him to make those wounds. The blood went over his shoulder and down his side. The medical examiner said she would have expected significant blood loss for the wounds that Robert suffered. One of the stab wounds went directly into his heart, which you would think would cause a lot of blood. The ME also notes that the wounds were not immediately fatal and that blood had begun to fill some of his small intestines, indicating that Robert was alive for a period of time after digesting his own blood and after the wounds were inflicted. So it's like, if he was alive after the wounds were inflicted, why didn't he move during the process at all? Not even like a flinch. Like you would see that in the stab wounds. The fact that he was alive through the stabbing and for some time after with no evidence that he moved at all during the attack is bizarre. This raises suspicions that he had been restrained or he had been drugged. During the autopsy, there were no signs of ligature marks and no signs of Robert having been restrained. Toxicology tests didn't show any drugs in his system, but they also didn't test for paralytics. And for some of the most commonly used paralytics, you actually can't test for them because they leave the system so quickly. Investigators believe it's possible that Robert was drugged with some kind of paralytic, which would have incapacitated him to be unable to move or fight back during his attack. Another thing they found on the autopsy report was needle puncture marks, which you can see on the photo as well. He had some on his neck, one on the back of his hands, and a few more on his ankles, the top of his feet, and one in the center of his chest.
So he doesn't, like, they drug tested him? Like, he doesn't do, like, drugs that involve a needle?
No, he doesn't do alcohol. He's like so straight edge. He is not like a drug user or any kind of like intoxicant user. It's not unusual to see needle puncture marks after a patient is rushed to the hospital because sometimes they do try to start an IV. And the EMTs were interviewed and the investigators said that none of them could explain all of the needle marks to the investigator's satisfaction, especially the one in the center of his chest.
The hand ones make sense for like an IV, right?
Mm-hmm. And the ankle.
Sure, yeah, maybe. But yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And when they just like also have those documented as well, you know, at some point.
But like I think with like emergency medicine, it's not like as strictly documented, maybe. I don't know.
I think so too. That's the impression I got. And that they could have tried to start lines kind of all over his body because once you're deceased, it's really hard to get an IV going. So it does make sense that they would have tried to start all over, but there's not anywhere in the center of your chest where you're starting an IV. Yeah, that one is interesting. I don't know if there's a possibility that like maybe in the rush of everything, they accidentally like poked him with the needle. I don't know like how likely that is. That just like crossed my mind.
Like maybe.
At some point doing this. During the autopsy, it was also found that some of the needle puncture marks were inflicted on Robert pre-mortem, so before he passed away. There was also semen, and for listeners, I'm putting that in quotation marks, semen found on his genitalia and inside of his rectum. The semen was DNA tested, and it was actually found to be Robert's own semen. This becomes a thing investigators really hone in on and eventually try to use in court as evidence of sexual assault, because how could Robert's own semen get into his rectum? We will... Right. It's odd, right?
Yeah.
And we will circle back to that. Robert also had his mouth guard in, which his wife said is the last thing he did every night before he goes to bed. And so that just kind of backs the idea that, like, one of the theories is that Robert was planning to engage in some kind of consensual sexual activity with the men and something went wrong. And it's just like, who puts a mouth guard in and is planning to be involved in sexual activities? So that just kind of backs the fact that, like, that is very unlikely, I feel like, in my opinion. So this leaves us just with more questions. Was sexual assault part of what happened? How did Robert's own semen get in his rectum? And why didn't Robert react at all after being stabbed? Was some kind of paralytic used? So we're going to get into the investigation a bit more. Investigators quickly ruled out an intruder theory, but without a clear alternative, the case kind of stalled out. For an intruder to get to Robert's room from the unlocked back door, they would have had to have gotten over the 7-foot fence, went into the kitchen, grabbed a knife from their kitchen knife block, go past the living room, which has a ton of expensive items in it. So if they were there to burglarize, you'd think they would take the TVs and stuff in the living room on the bottom floor.
Why would you go further in than you have to if you were burglarizing?
Right. Or up the stairs. Right. You think you would just, you see expensive stuff, grab it and go.
Yeah.
So he would have to go through the living room, past the expensive items, and then up the stairs. And then when you get to the second floor landing, you're facing Dylan's door. So you'd have to not go into Dylan's room, make a 180, walk down the hall. And remember that Dylan said that he thought he heard Robert's door, or the room that Robert was sleeping in, his door close before Dylan fell asleep. So assuming that the door to the room that Robert is staying in is closed, they would have had to open that door, go in that room, and then stab Robert. And they know from the orientation of the wounds that the intruder stabbed Robert from his right side, which meant that the intruder would have had to walk all the way around the bed to the far side of the room to stab Robert 3 times. He would have had to have left the same way he came in, down the creaky stairs, past the front door, which would be weird. Why wouldn't you just run out the front door at that point? Because it's deadbolted, but you can unlock it from the inside, right? So he would have gone past the front door, out the back door, and then back over the 7-foot fence, because that gate was deadbolted as well, that exited their little patio area in the back, so he didn't leave and then lock it unless it was someone with a key. Does that make sense? I felt like I was just kind of rambling.
No, I think that, like, first of all, right, that fence is crazy. And I know we touched on that last time. That fence is crazy. I don't see someone rushing over it or rushing back out over it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they
And
have...
not causing a commotion in the process.
Right. Yeah.
And they're being like, no notice of any person leaving. Like, yeah.
And they know exactly where to go. And it's...
That is so weird to me. Yeah. And then, like, why not just walk out the gate? Like, unlock the gate and walk out it. Or unlock the front door and walk out that. Because you're on the side, you can unlock it. Why would you hop over the 7-foot fence?
So strange.
Granted, so all of that, like, theory too, what I kind of keep in perspective about that is that this is all from these guys sitting down when the police like started looking around the house. They told these guys to go sit down in the living room before they brought them to the police station, and these guys were looking around their house and just happened to see that the back door was unlocked, and they kind of came up with this theory themselves. So this isn't really a theory like police came up with. This is like a theory that the guys who live there came up with. So they could have come in the house through a window or something like that, you know, like maybe, I don't know. There's more options than this intruder theory.
Yeah.
So I want to remind you of the time frame as well. Robert gets to Joe's around 10:30 p.m. The 911 call is made at 11:49 p.m. and EMTs arrive at 11:54 p.m. So that's 79 minutes that whatever happened could have happened in.
That's so crazy.
Yes. From when Robert arrived to when they called.
Right. And so he was just going there just to sleep?
Yeah. And he was supposed to meet Joe too the next morning. Radio Free Asia had some like trademark issue that that they had going on. So he was going to have like breakfast with Joe the next morning to talk about that, because that was what Joe's law firm did. So I guess they were going to talk a little bit of shop. And like Joe even had like papers on the table of like things that he was going to bring to the breakfast the next morning too, of like things to go over with Robert. So yeah, it's just a super tight timeline for, you know, one of the theories is that he was like murdered and then cleaned up and all that. And it's like, that's 79 minutes is not a lot of time to like stab someone, wash them, dress, like carry a body to the bath, wash them, redress them, lay them on the bed, you know, like it seems like a very tight timeline. And that's like if it's at the bath. There's other theories where maybe it's like downstairs at the drain out back too. And it's like, how do you get a body up and down the stairs in 79 minutes and kill them? And I don't know. It's a tight timeline.
Yeah. I'm still stuck on how little blood there is. Like even in the house, you can't clean that up in 70 something minutes.
That too I'm stuck on as well. Like if
they were moving this body around, like that is
it'd be splatter, you know.
And spotlessly clean it up.
Yeah, blood doesn't come out like easy.
And 79 minutes is not enough time to do a thorough job where not one spot is going to be found.
And they have those tests where they can, you know, there's certain things that, not that I know, I just feel like I've read this, where it's to clean up blood, so the police then test for that specific, because it's a very unique thing. I forget what it is.
Spray.
Do you know what I'm talking? Yeah, or it's something like that.
Luminol.
Yeah.
Luminol's one, yeah. Yep, we get to that. We do get to that.
Yeah. We're solving the case.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're here to solve the case, okay?
Okay, so during the investigation, police went door to door to interview neighbors. There was an old couple who lived next door and watched Maureen Bunyan on the news every night. This show was on between 11 and 11:30 p.m. The neighbors said that they heard a scream, which investigators are assuming was Victor's hysterical scream when they came down the stairs and saw Robert. So the neighbors are saying that they heard a scream while Maureen Bunyan was on, which would have been between 11 and 11:30. And that was the only scream that any neighbors heard. If that is the case, and it was Victor's scream that they heard when they found Robert stabbed, then if it was between 11 and 11:30, why did they wait until 11:49 to call 911? And Victor even says on the 911 call, Joe told me to call immediately. You know, so, but I find it interesting too that they're just assuming that that was Victor's scream. What if it was Robert's scream, like when he was attacked? But you would think the guys in the house would have heard it. I don't know. I would like to know more about where their room was in proximity to, like, if it was butted up to Robert's room, then maybe they would have heard something before the other people, because they're row houses, and these are the next door neighbors. So if that room that they heard that in was butted up to Robert's room, then maybe they would have heard something before the other roommates would have.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Did we touch on if they were able to determine in the autopsy how long Robert was deceased?
they don't touch on that.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
be. It's like I wonder how long. Because usually, right, they can tell. I don't know.
No,
And
that
also, like, with the blood being digested and stuff, like, wouldn't that take a little bit of time, too?
I don't
Yeah,
think
I
so
feel like you could
because
put a timeline on it.
it one of the stab wounds went into one of his intestines, and I think that's where the blood started getting digested. So I don't think that it was that he was alive for a long time after.
Gotcha.
I think it was just like some blood started getting into his intestines, but like it was that the digestive tract was still working because it moved like through his intestines. But no, I also like had that question a couple times, and the autopsy report doesn't. And I read the whole report.
Yeah, and I mean it was 2006. I mean I don't know where technology was at that time, but
You would think
yeah,
that, yeah. I don't know if it's because they're assuming that they already know. It's such a, it had to have been within that almost 60 minutes because they know where he was. He was at work before that. But yeah, I don't know. I found that
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. Olivia Benson would definitely have figured out how long he was dead for.
She would be right on it for sure.
In
Imagine how
2008.
many, yeah. Imagine how many cases get solved just because of like Ring cameras nowadays,
Oh my gosh, literally. I think about that. Yeah.
Because at least one neighbor, if not they, would have some kind of security footage around their
Yeah.
homes. So
Yeah.
Especially
I
in like
always think about
this
that.
neighborhood. The way Victor spoke on the phone seems like he may have been prompted or the call was maybe scripted by someone else. The use of the word intruder stood out to investigators. Asking the 911 operator for a time could be to intentionally establish a timeline as well. Like they have record of that. Victor also mentions that he told the 911 call that he told the 911 operator that he called immediately, which is just an interesting thing to mention. And unprompted, he also mentions the chime that they heard. And unprompted, he mentions that the intruder had one of their knives. And the 911 operator wasn't asking about that at all. So it's just interesting. He's just kind of throwing those details out there. Maybe he was hysterical. Maybe he was trying to establish a story. While searching the home, investigators found that in Dylan's room there was an extensive collection of BDSM devices, like hundreds of BDSM devices, which who cares? To each his own, as
Right,
long as
right.
all adults
Not
are.
to shame anyone.
No, right. As long as
No.
all adults are consenting, who cares? In the searches of the computers in the homes, there were also many pornographic photos found, and many of which were of Joe and Dylan. It appeared that there was a relationship between.
Wait, Joe in the relationship upstairs and Dylan, the one
In the basement? Or not the
second
basement,
floor?
but
Second floor, yeah. Well, they did admit in their interrogations, too, that they had some kind of polyamorous thing going on, and they were working
yeah.
towards, like, making it equal between everyone. But this is when they found out that it was actually Dylan and Joe in a relationship, and then Victor and Joe in a relationship. So it didn't seem like Victor and Dylan were super involved. So Dylan and Joe had a BDSM relationship where Dylan was the dom and Joe was the sub. Police wondered, yeah. It was fascinating too because in person Joe was like the more aggressive one and like Dylan even said something to police, and like Joe gave him a look, and he like stopped talking. And police were like, "Oh, this guy's like the ringleader." So he was like the dominant one conversationally, you
But
know.
not in the sheets.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think that's also like interesting that they specify for Dylan and Joe's relationship, but not for Joe and the other fellow's relationship.
Victor.
Well, I think
Victor.
because they found the pornography photos too.
Yeah. Well,
Give them that
I was
insight.
saying, like, did he exclusively have like that relationship with Dylan?
It seems like it.
Yeah. That's just in the kink world. I'm like, I don't know. Usually, if you like are into something, you do it with. I don't know. Maybe not.
With
Right.
both.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
Interesting.
And like, how does Victor feel about him doing that with Joe and not with him? Or
Right.
wouldn't that create some kind of weird? I don't know.
Like, especially if Joe is like the dominant person in general, and then like he has this like, I don't know.
This
During
is
the
so
interrogations, it seems like
crazy.
Victor like definitely thought of Dylan as family. Like it didn't seem like there was really like
Any
too
weird
much
animosity.
like any bad blood or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they'd
Like
all
a
lived
good
together for
polyamory
years.
relationship.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe like Joe was into that and Victor wasn't, but like Joe and Victor had been together for so long and they loved each other. So like
Right.
Joe kind of got to still get that side out with Dylan. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not to not to segue, but
Yeah.
the
But
dynamic.
It's just fascinating.
We will.
Really.
We will.
Fascinating dynamic.
So police wondered if this sub-dom relationship could reach over into Joe helping to cover up a violent crime for Dylan. Which is a stretch, I would say. Dylan Ward had a dating profile on alt.com that showed that he leaned on the more extreme end of BDSM, including pain, confinement and caging, electro torture, etc. I want to stress again, whatever. If they're two consenting adults, like, what does it matter? But the only reason I'm mentioning it is because police explore an avenue that involves all of this. One of the devices found was a TENS unit called a milking machine. Show your face.
I'm sorry. I'm a massage therapist that works in chiropractic. I'm like, a TENS unit is not meant for that. That's
Oh.
crazy.
No, my first thought, exactly.
I was like,
need
I know
to-
exactly what those do.
Yeah.
What is it exactly?
Well, to
So-
use it to milk someone, that's crazy.
Investigators believe that this could have been used to force Robert to ejaculate because a milking machine is like, it uses like electric charges in theory to force someone to ejaculate.
A TENS unit is like two receptors that you put on the muscle tissue, and you basically want to like put them on the same muscle because you don't want it, and it sends an electric message to the muscle to contract it.
Okay.
It's like electrodes, and like when for chiropractic use, you'd put it on like a trap each, and it basically just like tenses, releases, tenses, and the idea is when you do that, it gets the muscle to fully relax after. Like, because the more you tense it up and then you stretch, the bigger the stretch is going to be after you, like, can do it several times. So that's, like, there's science behind that. But as a milking machine.
Wow. That is something else.
Yeah, and I also agree with Tori. I do want to touch on, like, in general, like, BDSM obviously has nothing to do with, like, abusive behavior or violence or, right, like, it's two consenting adults doing whatever they're going to do. That's not inherently, like, murderous.
Evil.
Yeah, I mean, the core
thing.
of it is like
malicious.
based around consent, I'm pretty sure. Like if you're
Right.
in like a community where people know what they're doing and stuff for
100%.
BDSM. So investigators believe that the milking machine could have been used to force Robert to ejaculate, and then another sex toy could have been used to get Robert's own semen into his rectum. Due to the lack of blood, investigators believe Robert may have been stabbed somewhere else, cleaned up, and then placed in bed. So they brought in cadaver dogs trained to pick up on human blood, and the dogs alerted to two places. One was the lint trap of the dryer, and the other spot was in the rear stairwell, and there was also in the rear stairwell drain, and there was also an uncoiled hose near this drain. You can't get enough of a sample from a drain, especially after like the time that had passed between when his murder happened and when the dogs came out, to determine if there is blood present. So investigators attempted to use something called Ashley's agent to put on the surfaces of the house to see if blood had been cleaned up from the home. Initially, they thought there was positive results all over the place. Then they found out that they applied it in a way that the instructions specifically said not to. They were not supposed to apply it to vertical surfaces because it will drip and the results will be inconclusive. And they applied it over the whole house.
Oh.
Once
So like even not vertical applications of it were inconclusive because it was improperly done.
You know, they didn't touch on that. I'm not sure. That's a good question.
I can imagine it would like null and void.
It seems like everything, like there was nothing to gain from this at this point.
Yeah.
Once Ashley agent is on the surfaces in the home, you've pretty much shot your chance to try to test for blood because you can't get the Ashley's agent removed from the walls without like redoing the walls. So they blew it.
Yeah, Dexter's a lie.
Wow.
You really like luminol does not show up like Ashley's, like, you know, whatever they're using to show blood. Like it's very different how it shows up in real life, and then also like clearly there's a lot of logistics surrounding that.
Right.
Yeah, and maybe some inexperience because it like the instructions clearly stated.
Well, you know what? I'm not going to talk too much about the cops and investigators.
The knife was DNA tested, and even though Joe specified that he had touched and or pulled it out of Robert's chest, there was no trace of his fingerprints or DNA on the knife or anyone else's who lives in the home. Police also determined that the wounds don't match the size of the knife. The blade was 5.5 inches long, and the depth of the wounds were 4.5 inches. So investigators say that someone would have had to stab him three times while leaving an inch of the blade out of his chest, because the wounds are an inch shorter than the knife itself. So to repeat that three times would have been difficult and unlikely. There were also white fibers on the knife that were consistent with the towel that Joe had used to stop the bleeding. There were loop patterns consistent with the fibers on the towel found on the knife blade. So, you know, those like little, in the blood on the knife, you could see like the little loops. There was no blood on the actual cutting surface, like the blade itself of the knife. It was just on the sides of the knife. The investigators thought someone had dipped the towel in blood or touched the towel to blood and then applied the towel to the knife to get blood onto the knife.
Interesting.
Robert was wearing a gray t-shirt when EMTs arrived, and the gray shirt had holes in it corresponding to the stab wounds in Robert's chest, but there was no gray fibers on the knife from the shirt. So was the knife planted? And if so, where is the real murder weapon?
Interesting. And also, I don't know if we have gotten to the part where we're looking at the knife.
We did in last episode, but you can look at it again.
Looking at the knife, it looks like am I wrong? It looks like a steak knife.
Yeah, it was just from the kitchen.
That's like a small knife.
Mm-hmm.
That's tiny. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's a lot of blood like on the sides. Interesting though, that I would have never, I mean, as someone who's never murdered anybody or investigated any murder, I would have never considered that there could be blood on the sides and not on, that makes sense. It's the surface,
the blade,
on the bottom of the knife, yet on the blade part.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Most of the knives in the home were in the kitchen, you know, as one does. When searching the home, investigators found a 3-piece knife set with a knife missing in Dylan's room. The missing knife had a blade length that was more consistent with Robert's wounds. The missing knife was never found. Did someone go down to the kitchen, wipe blood on the knife from the cutting block, and plant it in Robert's room? And why? All the roommates moved out of Swan Street after this happened. 3 months after Robert's murder, Joe's brother, Michael Price, breaks into the house, takes the flat screen TVs, and pawns them. Bet you guys weren't expecting that.
No.
Frick.
What?
Like Joe's brother out of nowhere was like,
Yep.
gonna go take that.
Right.
Might as well.
Yeah.
Because of this, investigators learned that Michael Price had a key to Swan Street. Joe was asked during his interviews if anyone else had a key, and he told them no, maybe like a couple contractors did, but he never mentioned Michael. Michael Price is also studying to become a phlebotomist and works at Holy Cross Hospital, where he could potentially get his hands on succinylcholine, which is the most common aesthetic paralytic used, and it's on crash out carts, I forget what they're called, something like that, in hospitals. It might be hard to get that still, it might be like controlled in 2006, but maybe he has access to that. Michael had perfect attendance at school until, can you guess when?
Oh, stop.
August 2nd, 2006, the night of the murder.
And this is Joe's brother.
Yes.
Is he with Dylan too? No, just kidding.
I know. I was like, is there any other connection to him in this situation?
They didn't go into his love life at all. So I have no idea. Yeah,
I
that's
thought it was going to be Dylan. This sounds like it's Michael.
Right.
Sorry.
Right.
Investigators tracked Michael's phone, and it was nowhere near Swan Street at the time of the murder. But could he have left his phone behind somewhere?
It's 2006. Your phone doesn't do much.
Right.
Yeah, but
right.
they could still track it then. Like, because it
right,
would
but I'm
ping.
just saying, like, if you were planning to do something
Oh, what's the point of
illegal,
bringing it?
what's the
Yeah.
point? Right. And, like, it's not like, I mean, our phones nowadays are a lifeline, but in 2006, I mean, I could be without my phone. I didn't even have a smartphone.
Right. But what would Michael's motive be?
It's got to be
He
Joe.
just didn't
Something
like
with
him.
Joe and Dylan. Something with Joe, Dylan, and Robert.
Michael
know.
did. They know. Maybe. Michael did have an alibi, and which was his partner saying that he was with them that night. So,
Okay.
right.
Sure.
Is that it?
Yeah.
We need receipts. We need,
Right.
some security footage.
I would
don't
like
know.
to think that's like where his phone was showing too. But again, he could have just like left his phone somewhere too. So.
And also, like, kind of going back to, like, nowadays, I mean, I'm sorry, you could have, like, you can track that I've DoorDashed something tonight. You could track that I've done this, that, Walmart order, anything. You know exactly what I'm doing and where I am based off of the technology I have on me. Back then, I mean, yeah, your alibi could be your partner. Easy. Like, what?
Right.
We just stayed home and watched TV. That's where we were.
Yep. I know. And I've heard that a couple times in like different cases, and I'm just like, really? I need more. I'm sorry.
Right,
No.
right.
1 year after Robert's death, a press conference was held where Eric Holder, who would later become the U.S. Attorney General in D.C., was now the head of Robert's old firm, Covington and Burling, and he and Kathy spoke at this press conference. Kathy had reached out to Covington and Burling because she felt like police weren't doing enough, and she wanted them to put pressure on police. At the news conference, Eric Holder pleaded with roommates to share any information that could be helpful with police, and Kathy spoke as well, making it clear that she no longer was believing the intruder theory that the roommates were putting forward. While Kathy seemed to have believed the roommates initially after Robert's murder, and Joe was even one of the pallbearers for Robert's funeral procession, it seems sometime during the year between Robert's murder and the press conference, Kathy believed now that there was more to the story than this intruder theory. Okay, and here are some short clips of Eric Holder and Kathy speaking at the press conference.
If I was Robert's girl, I mean,
would
I
be
get like
going
after that kind of
insane.
trauma, yeah. After that trauma, like I understand like just kind of like believing what's being told to you, but it's like when the reality starts setting in, you're like, hold the
Right.
fuck up.
Wait. And I wonder if like someone said something to her that knows like did she find things out about the
Well, I'm
roommates?
sure she's talking to investigators this whole time who are hard on it's got to be Victor,
One of them.
Victor, Dylan, or Joe, so I'm sure that definitely influenced her as well. Okay, this is Eric Holder at the press conference.
Those in 1509 Swan Street, when Robert was killed, you need to truly ask yourselves, truly ask yourselves, have I provided the police with all of the information that might be relevant to the investigation of this crime?
And then this is Kathy.
I have a few words for the individual who took Robert's life. Having a murder on your conscience is no small load to carry as you try to live, I imagine, as normal a life as possible.
And that's actually why I titled the episode, I Bet You Think About Me, because of Kathy's words there. And
Wow.
I mean, that's like, look, my greatest fear in life is not me committing a murder, but having a murder secret and like knowing that a murder has been committed. Like that is like one of my nightmares.
Same.
And like not to sympathize with murderers, but like that's not
Right.
an easy load to carry.
No.
That's why people
it can't
crack
be.
all the time.
Sometimes I'm like, maybe out of like the trauma, I've blocked the memory out of my brain. So I have or I know something, and
Yeah.
it's like my mind is protecting me. So yeah, it's definitely an intrusive thought.
Yeah, no,
and I
big
have to
intrusive
tell myself
thought.
it's crazy.
Full on OCD. But like absolutely, like one of my biggest intrusive thoughts is like someday I'm gonna have a murder secret.
Right. And the cops are going to be wanting to know.
Here.
so because of Kathy's words, that's why I named the episode I Bet You Think About Me. And I hope whoever is responsible for this can't sleep.
Yeah.
I hope
my
that they are
gosh.
thinking about it, every day. I hope that they can't not think about him. So,
Totally.
Wow. And it's just like usually when I would say like more often than not, murders like that is usually by someone who knows the victim. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
yep.
I think
For
that's
sure.
very common. Yeah. I mean, most crimes, I think like physical crimes on somebody is usually by somebody who is close to the victim.
For sure. So, we do get a trial.
Okay.
It took nearly 2 years. This is now 2008 before charges were filed against the roommates, but they weren't for murder. Instead, Price, Zavorsky, and Ward were charged with obstruction of justice, evidence tampering, and conspiracy.
I'm sorry.
okay.
Wait, and who was it that was charged?
The 3 roommates, Price, Zavorsky, and Ward,
So
which are their last
Dylan,
names.
Victor, and Joe.
Yeah.
With tamper, well, obviously, but like,
Right.
you couldn't get a murder charge in there.
And why?
I don't think they could. Right.
It's actually really hard to prove murder, and for good reason.
Yeah. Some people believe initial investigators were homophobic and clearly biased and didn't investigate the intruder theory enough, whereas others believe there's too much off about the stories of the 3 men who were in the house that night. The prosecution's case was that the men had delayed calling 911, cleaned up the scene, and misled investigators to protect themselves. Also, when they delayed 911, they would have had to get together and like corroborate their stories as well.
Yeah.
Prosecutors suggested Robert had been restrained and or drugged and sexually assaulted before being killed. The prosecution believed that someone put their clothes in the washer and dryer that probably had blood on them since the dogs hit on the lint trap in the dryer and then rinsed off out back at that drain because the dogs also hit on that. Before the trial began, defense was able to challenge the sexual assault claims and make it to where the prosecution was unable to present evidence for a sexual assault claim, and this was upheld by the judge. Remember the semen that was found in Robert's rectum? Well, it turns out that the test that they were using to find semen was for something called PSA, which is prostate-specific antigen. While PSA does occur in semen and it occurs mostly in semen, it also occurs naturally in the bloodstream and some glands, like the prostate gland. One of the functions of the prostate gland is actually to release PSA into the bloodstream. Upon death, your muscles relax, and it's not surprising that PSA was found in Robert's rectum. So this really is not substantial evidence at all that Robert was sexually assaulted or that any sexual assault happened.
Yeah, I feel like there's plenty of other ways to prove sexual assault than, especially if it's not actual semen.
And they did do
Right.
a rape kit and stuff, and nothing
Okay.
came from that.
Yeah,
Besides the semen.
I
Right.
fear there were. It's so hard to not see this from like pro LGBTQ lens and being like they fucked that up on purpose. Like they were trying to like frame it so that it was the queer people involved, and that's horrible. But also, there's so many holes in that story.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I feel like it's less about a queer relationship and more about like, I think it's Dylan.
The prosecution argued that there was no way an intruder came into the house, that there was uncounted for blood that must have been cleaned up, that the knife at the scene was too long to cause the wounds that Robert suffered, and that the knife that would have been a better fit was the missing knife from the cutlery set in Dylan's room. The prosecution even brought the ME who did Robert's autopsy in, and the ME stated that she weighed the amount of blood in Robert's body during the autopsy, and it was only about a third of an average person's blood. The ME also stated that due to the location of one of the stab wounds going into Robert's heart, she would have expected significant bleeding.
Yeah, because the heart is a literal pressure cooker of blood.
And it has it keeps some blood in there. It keeps a fair amount of blood in there.
Right.
And the
Well,
arteries.
it pumps all of it. So it's just like if it was stabbed in the heart, it's pumping every ounce of blood out.
Squirting everywhere. Yeah. But he's also not moving for any of this.
Correct. Yep.
And I'm
Right.
I was really stuck on the strangulation. I'm sorry, that like
Yeah.
is huge. The bloodshot eyes are not from a stabbing. And that I'm obviously not a medical examiner, but from all the true crime TV shows and podcasts I've listened to, that is synonymous with like not stabbing and more.
It's like, forget who did it. How did it even really happen in the first place?
Also, the incision wounds like seem post-mortem.
Well, I think the reason that they seem so surgical is because he wasn't moving.
I
But
know, but is that because he was like,
it seems like he was alive because of the digested blood. The defense also brings in someone who says that that isn't necessarily the case. And then I also saw on the blog Who Killed Robert Wone, there's a whole website devoted to this. People saying that like if the body was moved too and he was like stood upright, the blood could have gone more into his intestines as well. So I think I don't know how solid like that is that he
I don't
had
think
to
an
have been
intruder
alive.
would have moved the body though, so that still circles it right back to being like someone in the house. And more than one person, I would imagine.
Right. To
If
move
they're
a
moving
body and
Yeah.
Like, I think
It's
Robert's
just
not
like
like a big guy, but
right.
a dead body is not
It's
easy to move.
No.
no.
And about the suffocation too, I did see in other sources that there was evidence that Robert had been suffocated with a pillow for some amount of time. I didn't include it because I couldn't find a solid source besides other people just saying that. So I'm not sure where those people got that from. So I didn't
Sure.
include it, but there's that as well. I don't know if that brings any peace or just more questions, but
I think more questions, honestly, because I was like, well,
yes.
that coincides with the fact that he's like knocked out for these weird stab wounds where he's not moving.
Good
Like,
point.
he may
Yeah.
not
I
necessarily
didn't think
be
about that.
dead.
But then where's all the blood?
Well, if he's
Right.
not dead, then that would also, once again, like make sense. It's like, well, then there might be just a little bit of blood, and if they move it, then all the blood.
Ay caramba.
No
Because there's
justice.
only that little bit of blood on the sheet.
So those the three were charged
where
with
did
tampering with evidence.
2/3 right? Where did 2/3 of his blood go? It's not on the sheet.
No, there's little tiny. I don't even think he was killed in the bed.
Exa-
It's baffling.
Like, I think he was probably killed
This
in the
is
basement,
so
close
weird.
to the drain. They brought him up.
I
Put
think
him
that
in
was
the bed.
outside. I think it was out like on the back patio where that
That's
drain
the only place
was.
I could think they would drain, or was it the basement? I don't know. That's the only place I could imagine them getting all that blood somewhere else. And then
Yeah.
from there, just wash whatever you could. But I'm sorry, dragging a body, you're going to get blood everywhere.
Right.
Right.
And then do all that and clean it up in 79 minutes
That's
to where
so
you didn't miss a
strange.
speck of
What
blood.
a weird case.
Yeah. Is there like a general kind of consensus online, or is it people just saying arguing intruder or roommates pretty much?
There's a lot of theories, no general consensus. I myself, from the beginning to the end of research, have flip-flopped about 3 times on what I think.
Sure. Well, and like I said, like it's one of those things where like these cases, like the the Idaho 4, it's like based on one tiny bit of evidence, it could change the entire timeline, and that
Right.
changes everything. And so it's like we can only speculate from the information we're given. But as
Well,
we know, there's usually a lot more information that's either unknown or they haven't released.
right. I don't think the timeline can really budge much here, though, because he was actually like physically at work around people he worked
Yeah.
with at 10:26, and they have record of his phone call from work at 10:26 or 10:24, and it was super close. And
Like they
then
would have had to kill him
record
as
of the
soon as he got
911
to the
call.
house.
Right,
Right. And this is also his friend, like
right. Longtime friend. Yeah. And they both are like very respected people and like have a lot to lose.
I
right.
feel like, I mean, the only thing that makes sense is like Dylan's the only person in that house that's not like a well respected, like in the community. He's not a lawyer. He's not like
Right.
this,
Right.
that, or whatever. Like he's a person.
Yeah.
And like maybe some jealousy or something like that. Dylan's the only like off person in that story. Even like with the inclusion of Michael's information, I don't know that it's enough. Like Dylan is right there. The knife was probably in his room.
Okay, so yeah, there's only a third of an average person's amount of blood inside of Robert. And she was even like weighing like the little bits that went into the digestive tract and stuff. Like she weighed all the blood. The defense brought in an expert witness that argued that the cuts Robert suffered actually caused internal bleeding, which is why there wasn't that much blood at the scene. Which, like, Sam, you've heard of that, the Betsy Ardma case as well. Like, some stab wounds will only cause, like, the blood doesn't come out, it's internal.
But then
But
wouldn't it still be in there?
that's where I land too, is like the medical examiner, they open everything up.
Yeah, they would
And
still be
I
able to
mean,
weigh the amount of blood.
yes, and see it, at the very least, see it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my question with that is like, I know that that can happen sometimes. And the thing is, too, with the defense is they don't have to provide an alternative story. They just have to poke holes in the prosecution's story.
Right.
So,
No, exactly. And that's why, and also, like I said, like for the better or worse, it's really hard to prove murder.
yeah,
And that's exactly why, because it's, you have to do it without any reasonable doubt. And if there's an ounce of doubt, you
yeah,
can't charge them with it.
yeah, which is like a good thing. But yeah,
It is, but
it's
then
like
you also
frustrating
is.
sometimes.
the Anthony's of the world, and you're like,
Yes, yeah. OJ.
crazy
Yeah.
OJ, right? Robert's case, like, I mean, these are all situations where it's like, dang,
I mean,
Yeah.
I definitely don't want the roommates convicted if they're,
innocent.
of course, innocent.
right.
So, yeah. Yeah.
The defense also argued that police didn't investigate the intruder theory because of their bias towards the men and the theory that the roommates had something to do with it from the very beginning. They spoke to a neighbor next door. The defense spoke to a neighbor next door who had a sandbox in their backyard with a lid on it. And she said she went to police the day after the murder to tell them that the sandbox looked like it had imprints on it, almost as if someone had landed on it while jumping the fence. She said police told her, thanks, but we've already got the guys who did it. And they didn't investigate any further or come over and even look at the sandbox. And this was the day after the murder.
Gosh, I'm just so, like, not convinced someone jumped over that fence.
Yeah.
Like, even with that information, it just seems so crazy.
The defense also took a video of a couple of guys that they knew hopping over the fence very quickly. Like 2 different people doing it in under 2 minutes, both of them. Jumping over and then back over.
Yeah.
The defense also brought in Dylan Ward's mom to testify that she mailed that knife set to Dylan and she had actually kept the missing knife for herself before mailing it to Dylan.
The random one knife.
Yes.
That happens to
seems-
match the stab wounds exactly.
Not exactly matches it better.
The length of it.
Okay. Okay.
They said, yeah, and I it may be exactly, but the words that they used was that that knife is more consistent with the wounds.
Sure, right.
Okay.
But also,
And
it's
it's
weird.
missing.
Why would you mail an entire set and then one random knife?
Literally,
I'd be
my
like,
next note.
Thanks.
My next note
weird.
is, to me, that seems very odd to send someone a 3-piece knife set without one of the knives.
Right.
And also odd that Dylan kept that knife set in his room and not in the kitchen.
Right.
Where
Maybe
it
it
would
was like-
belong.
Right. It like, was it a family heirloom? Was it like your grandpa's or like that is very odd to me. And it goes back to what we were saying earlier too about like, okay, your partner can say you're not there. Your mom says, "Oh, that knife's missing because I had it." Like, I'm sorry, that
Of
doesn't do it
course
for
you
me.
do.
That doesn't
that
do it
doesn't
for
seem
me.
like a reasonable alibi.
So the judge ruled that while things seemed suspicious, the government couldn't prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the 3 men had actively covered up the crime. All 3 men were acquitted. The judge goes on for about 40 minutes in her delivery of her judgment. The judge says that the way the men reacted was odd and doesn't align with how you'd expect someone to react whose long-term friend had just died. She did think that the knife was the weapon used and that Price pulled the knife from Robert's chest, wiped the blade with a towel, and then sat it on the table. She couldn't come up with the intent as to why he would do that. The judge acknowledges that she felt the 3 roommates knew enough about the murder to help investigators, but chose not to share it with police. The judge says there's a difference between moral certainty and evidentiary certainty. pretty much saying that she thinks that the roommates are hiding something, but there's not enough evidence to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. She also didn't believe that they cleaned up the blood or delayed a call to 911. In 2011, Robert's widow, Kathy Wone, filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the roommates. Kathy wanted the men to come into a courtroom and testify, but they all pled the fifth and wouldn't speak. Because the men wouldn't talk, that case ended up being settled out of court for an undisclosed amount, which Kathy then donated to a charity. The men admitted no wrongdoing. To this day, Kathy has never received a clear explanation of what happened to her husband. Some questions that I feel like we're left with is, why didn't Robert move when he was stabbed? Did he bleed internally, or where was the blood? Did one or more of the roommates kill him? Were all three involved in a cover-up? Or were the police just too tunnel-visioned that they didn't explore other possibilities enough, and now it may be too late? Robert was alone with Dylan and Joe in the kitchen for quite a while. Victor never interacted with Robert that night. Could something have happened during that time frame? Is it possible that the loud scream heard during Maureen Bunyan by the neighbors was Robert and not Victor, but it didn't wake the men up in the house? Or was it Robert screaming and it was when one or some of the roommates attacked him? Is it possible someone was already in the house from earlier in the day and the chime was someone leaving the home instead of entering? Is it possible it could have been someone with a key, like Michael Price or Sarah even, the other roommate? So I'm sure that they checked her out too. So they would have been able to lock the deadbolt, though, on their way out of the front door or the gate out of the back, especially if the first chime that they heard was a perpetrator leaving. Did Sarah have any stalkers or, anything going on in her life that may have caused someone to be scoping the house out? A summary of theories. Some or all of the roommates were involved in Robert's death, obviously, is a big theory. These theories usually include some kind of sexual intent or BDSM play, usually gone wrong, some with Robert's consent and some without. Dylan, more theories. Dylan could have murdered Robert and Joe and Victor knew nothing. Dylan murdered Robert and Joe and Victor covered for him. Joe and Dylan murdered Robert and Victor didn't know, or Joe and Dylan murdered Robert and Victor is covering for them. Maybe Dylan murdered Robert and it was part of Dylan and Joe's sub and dom roles, which is why Joe is covering for him. There are also some theories on blood play gone wrong, which I guess can be something in the BDSM community as well, and also with and without Robert's consent. Another theory, Michael Price, or one of the contractors who had a key, or someone else at some point gained access to the house and murdered Robert when the men all went to sleep. Do you guys have any theories? Or after hearing everything, what are your theories?
After hearing all of that, I think one of them could be BDSM play gone wrong if we're talking about choking, because I think no one's touching enough on that and what the actual cause of death might have been.
There were no marks on his neck, so I don't think it would be
bloodshot eyes.
Yes.
That's some level of pressure happening.
Mm-hmm. Or straining.
That might be why they think pillow.
Yeah, interesting. And so also easily it could be part of play, right? Not to shame any of that and gone wrong. I think that definitely is an option that something could happen, but I'm leaning more towards Dylan. I think there's something kind of nefarious about him in general that has nothing to do with the kink stuff or the homosexuality. Mm-hmm. He just seems like such an off person, in the scenario.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Sam?
I'm leaning towards Dylan as well, and I definitely think that Victor and Joe knew and is giving help covering it up, especially with the timeline of the scream being heard and then the 911 call once again, all those details, which, you know, you're in shock in that moment if you're just seeing something like that. So I guess I kind of maybe get it. Maybe he's immediately thinking like, I need to say all these things so they don't think it's me, even though it may not have been him. He's just like panicking because it looks, obviously the optics of it are really bad.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Either way, you're kind of like, I don't know. You're kind of in a bad scenario just as it is. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and just like the moving of like him not realizing the knife was in his chest, as he says, and it's like, how?
So inconsistent. Some of that's, and the blood. I'm sorry, the blood doesn't make any sense. Period.
Yeah.
Like even if it bled out into the body, I don't. Yeah, that one really throws me for a loop as well.
Yeah, I get stuck on that as well.
They
I
like Dextered the fuck out of that. Whoever killed him, Dextered him.
I was with you guys when during my initial research. I was like, it's got to be one of the guys. And I was leaning on Dylan as well, just because the other two were together, right? And it's harder to get two people to agree to cover something like this up.
Sure.
And so I'm like, it has to be Dylan. And then I watched like the interviews, the interrogations, and I don't know. Not that
No, I'm gonna have to watch them.
Dang it.
Not that I am like someone who can point out a killer, but it just didn't give someone trying to hide anything
Sure.
to me at all. And the cops just felt so. After watching Dylan's, I was like, well, then it's got to be Joe or Victor, right? And then I watched their interview footage, and I'm like, I don't know, dude. Like these people seem like they don't seem like they're trying to hide anything.
Yeah.
The only person who seemed maybe a little off in the interrogations was maybe Joe. But I don't know. It wasn't like, I think that's probably just his personality. Like after watching the interrogations, I was like, it made me feel like the interviewers and the investigators were just so, they weren't even asking questions about like, have you guys had any stalkers lately? You know, has anything weird happened? Like nothing like that. They weren't exploring any other avenues at all. They were so tunnel visioned on it has to be you guys.
Yeah.
You guys had to. So, and we just did a case where there was someone hiding in the walls of someone's house last episode. Like, I know that stuff's unlikely, and like Occam's razor tells you, yeah, it's the guys in the house. But it does happen when sometimes that isn't the case. And it doesn't feel like, I know that the intruder theory doesn't play out, right? Like that doesn't line up, especially jumping over the gate and stuff like that. I'm sure that they checked all the windows and whatnot. Although actually I'm not that sure, because this lady even had this sandbox next door and they didn't investigate that, you know? So it's like, were they even looking to see if there was a disturbance on the windows and stuff? I would like to think that they did. But who knows?
I don't know. It does sound like some pieces of the investigation were definitely sloppy.
Yes. Yeah. And just like from the get confirmation bias that like they felt like they knew what happened.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like they explored other possibilities enough at all.
Confirmation bias, that's exactly it. Exactly. Yeah. Because like that's even it with like I keep bringing up the Idaho 4, but it's like because we were so convinced that these were the facts. This was the story everyone had built up.
Yep. And so I don't think it's any of these. I don't think we know what the hell I think it was something weird. And I don't think we know, and I don't think we'll ever know, because I think they botched the investigation and didn't, or at least botched the chance at finding out.
Sure.
Right. And also just even like by the off chance it is solved, it's like, we'll be like, oh, okay, then that makes sense. But there's still so many strange things.
Yeah.
Right.
As it
and
is.
I don't
Like,
think
it just seems impossible for this to happen.
I don't think any of these theories line up with like anything that we're thinking could have happened, which is why I think something else had to have happened.
Right,
Sure,
right.
yeah.
And we'll be like, if we ever find out what that is, we'll be like, oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. This is crazy. This is
It's
was a
wild.
tough
crazy.
one. I'm really excited to go look at the interviews now, honestly.
Same.
I want to
You
check
should watch
that
it.
out. I do think I have to pop out and do some bedtime stuff. So if you guys want to finish closing on your own.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you
Yeah.
so much. Our
Yeah,
special
no,
guest.
I loved it. I love being able to dress up. This whole case was so fascinating. Have me on again. I want more.
Oh my gosh, we would love to.
Yes.
I'm like, bring me back.
Yes.
You got it, dude.
I love you guys.
All right.
Love
Love
you.
you. Mwah.
Bye.
Bye.
Ugh,
Okay,
yeah,
so
that's so crazy.
I know. I just feel like there's so many possibilities, and from the interview footage I saw, police seem so decided that it had to be one of these men that it's just hard for me to believe that they were open enough to explore all possibilities. It's been almost 20 years, and we are no closer to the truth than the night that Robert died. Some closing thoughts. Robert was described as being brilliant, kind, and someone destined for big things by his friends and colleagues. Robert Wone's murder is one of the most baffling cases in modern Washington, D.C. He was a brilliant man, loved by his wife, family, colleagues, and community, and his life was cut short under circumstances that defy explanation. What we do know is that Robert deserves justice and Kathy deserves answers. And I'll end on a clip of Kathy talking about Robert.
It's very draining. It does require a lot out of you, both emotionally and physically. You come to realize that it's actually very sacred. That makes a big difference, rather than just viewing that emotional void as just a black hole. The 4.5 years that I had with Robert, it is very sacred.
Aw,
That's that. Yeah.
that's so sad. Ugh.
No.
And just to not have, for her not to have those answers is probably just so difficult. Oh my goodness.
And like the horrifying reality that it might be some of his friends too. And like she like went to lunch with Joe like the week before this happened too. Like she knew
Wow.
Joe as well, you know? So like it's just yeah. And it's like if it wasn't Joe and like she's now sued them, it's just like so sad. It's all so sad.
Well, at least the money went to charity, you know?
Yes,
That
yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Right. It's just sad that like a friendship could be like destroyed as well, potentially unnecessarily, but maybe not either.
Right.
Yeah, it's just this one will stick with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to be looking into it a bit more, and I'm also want to watch those interrogation things just to see how they are, their demeanor and stuff, you know.
Yes.
It's really hard, like, I don't know, it's hard to fake that kind of thing. You can't I mean, I would assume. Not that I know.
Right. I know, and I'm like, you know, who am I? Like, I'm not trained to like be able to detect a murderer either. So like, not yeah. But it just to me, I don't know. It just
Yeah,
let me know what you think when you watch it.
I will, for sure. Well,
Should we talk about happy stuff?
yeah, I actually forgot to even kind of look up happy things for us to talk about. I mean, we have a lot of happy things on our horizon. So
right.
that's cool.
Well, we have Halloween tomorrow. It's not Swiftie related, but that's exciting.
Yeah, very excited for that and to get all those kiddos together. Yeah, that will be a lot of fun.
So
yeah.
Sam is going as Betty Rubble. I spelled that wrong when I Googled it. And then
Yeah.
I'm going as Lightning McQueen's pit crew. My kid's gonna be Lightning McQueen, so yeah. My family too is gonna have pit crew shirts. They'll be there.
That is so cute. Oh my gosh. Love that. We do have, we're going to a like Swiftie dance party in a couple weeks.
Yes, I'm excited about
Together?
that.
Yeah,
And a
that will be a
Swiftie
lot of fun.
drag show. I'm really excited about that one.
Yes. Stoked for that.
Oh, so what I wanted to talk about was, did you see the donation that Taylor made for the little girl?
Lila?
Yes.
Yes.
And then after that, all the Swifties came in and donated $13 at a time, and I think they raised like over $1 million in a matter of hours for her cancer treatment.
That's incredible.
I just thought that was so cool, and like, I don't know, my mom's always saying that like we're a cult, and she's joking when she says it, but like her friends say it to her seriously, and it's just like, first of all, no, my mom's friend told her, she's like, if Taylor told them to jump off a bridge, they would, and I'm like, actually, I wouldn't, and I don't think, I don't think. None of the Swifties I know would. So, disagree.
Hard disagree.
Hard
The hive
disagree.
mind, we're not a bunch of lemmings, okay? So
The power of the Swifties. I just thought that was a really cool, just like thing, like for so many people to jump on. And like $13 is so doable. And it's just cool that so many people did it, that I hope it really helps Layla.
yeah, absolutely. That is so sweet. And also hearing, I think it was Ruby Rose saying that she's seen Taylor like scroll on GoFundMe and just like donate like casually, just like as she's scrolling, and it's just so crazy. It's all those things like that we don't hear about, because like of course we hear about some things, and I'm sure a lot of people think like, oh, of course it's so performative, blah 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 blah, but I have a feeling like she does things like that all the time that no one else knows about, like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, I do too. She seems very generous.
Yeah.
With money. So yeah, I agree.
And how she treated her, like all the people on the Eras tour, the kinds
Yes.
of bonuses she would give out and all of that. So yeah, it just makes you, it makes me have respect, for her.
For sure.
So.
I agree. Yep. Gotta love that.
Yeah, gotta love that.
Yeah, but I think otherwise we're in like a bit of a, I don't want to say a lull, but like we're just kind of waiting on our docuseries, and things will probably be a little chill, I imagine, until we get that.
I wonder if we're gonna get a new music video at any point.
Ooh, what song would you want?
I feel like Life of a Showgirl would make an excellent music video.
Thank you. Me too.
Yeah, I do. I think Opalite would be really great for dances, like viral dances and
Yeah.
things like that. But I think Life of a Showgirl, and I think she could do something really cool with Elizabeth Taylor, but more so Life of a Showgirl.
Elizabeth Taylor's grown on me. Now that I know like how many references are actually to Elizabeth Taylor in that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that it makes more sense to me, and it's grown on me.
Yeah. It's a bop for sure.
I always like the sound of it. Yeah. I always like the sound of it, but like the story wasn't really there for me. But yeah, it's definitely grown on me. I like it more now.
Right. Once you like learn how, like, was it her and Richard Burton were always meeting in Portofino, and it's like that whole crazy love story, and didn't he propose to her there, I believe, and I don't know, it's so crazy.
Yeah, I didn't realize
like,
it was so much like from Elizabeth Taylor's perspective. And that changed it for me a bit.
yeah, and it's like I feel like she's been wanting to release a song like Elizabeth Taylor and the whole lore of it for so long because she's referenced it before in her music and Are You Ready for It and stuff
Oh,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So it's like she's just been waiting for the
Yeah.
opportunity. And so I think she did such a good song or just such a great job with the writing. And that's like, oh, and she did get nominated to the Songwriters Hall of Fame,
Oh,
which
yeah,
you
I
can
did
only
see that.
do. Yeah, you can only get nominated like 20 years after you first release a single or something. And I think it was like Love Story, Blank Space, Anti-Hero was on there. There was like 5 songs that she got nominated for. So I
Oh,
think that's
wow.
pretty cool.
Yeah. Antihero's so good lyrically.
It is. It
Mm-hmm.
is. The first time I heard that song, I was like, oh my goodness, this is
I
amazing.
know. I was reading the lyrics today for my disguise.
I'm just trying to see if I could find that list of the 5 songs, but. Oh, so All Too Well 10-minute version, Blank Space, Anti-Hero, Love Story, and The Last Great American Dynasty, which
Oh, that one
I
is
love
so
that song
good.
so much. Yeah, I
What
love
is it?
it. Yeah. Um, that's to my mic.
Oh, yeah.
Can't even.
We need the nails. We're not girly enough for this.
Yes.
Can you?
Or
You
like
can
the
also
little
do this.
hands. Yeah.
Oh.
Um,
Yeah.
so here's where we at in the Swiftie world. Mm-mm-mm. We're moving and grooving. Still listening to Life of a Showgirl pretty much every
Dude.
day, at least once or twice. Usually like 2 or 3 times, I would say.
The beauty of it being so short is you can listen to it so many times.
Exactly. Like,
Yeah.
Fate of Ophelia will play again, and I'm like, wait, already? I
I
guess.
know.
Okay.
I know. Same. Here we go again.
Yeah.
Buckle in.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yep. Yep.
Can't change it now. We got to listen to the whole thing again.
Yep. It's the way she goes.
That's the way she goes. But that's it for today's episode of Crimelia Street. You can follow us on Instagram at Crimelia Street or on TikTok at Crimelia ST Podcast. Please like and subscribe on YouTube at Crimelia Street Podcast. And if you have any feedback or episode ideas, send us an email at crimeliast@gmail.com. Bye, clowns.
Bye, clowns.